Welcome to Unscripted 2.0 with your girl Jennifer. And today we're hosting a masterclass on the topic that hits most of us like a ton of bricks. Yet we're rarely given the manual for it. The topic is menopause. Yes, ladies, we are going there today. If you've noticed that your go-to workouts aren't working, your favorite foods are actually making you feel slightly sluggish or very sluggish, or you're just plain tired of the brain fog, this episode is just for you. Joining us is Audrey Zona. Audrey is an integrative health and nutrition coach who specializes in the how and the why of our eating habits. She's here to break down the basics of how our bodies change during the shift. And more importantly, how we can actually feel better about ourselves again and how do we feel like ourselves again. We're talking simple habits, better food choices, and yes, how to still enjoy a drink with your friends without the hangover. Audrey, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Jennifer. It is so lovely to be here with you today. And this is my one of my most favorite topics, talking about perimenopause and menopause and how to really handle this next chapter of life in a beautiful way where we feel like amazing and not like a wet dish rag. So let's get into it.
And thank you so much because I am in it and I have so many questions. But before I go to your questions, I really want to know about you and what led you to really developing this following. I mean, you have such a following on your Instagram. I mean, I've been looking at all of your content. I mean, all of the things that you're sharing with the world is just so necessary for us women to find out about. So, how did you go on to this journey of wellness and health?
It's really interesting. Thank you for asking. So I was a very overweight young little girl. I always say that I kind of came into this world with issues around food and body image and sugar and food addiction so that I could really learn how to heal myself and then obviously help others to heal in the same way. So at the age of 9, my parents sent me to what they called a diet camp. I don't even know if these things exist anymore, honestly, but back in the day, that's what you did when you were a chubby little girl and like your I thank my parents. I mean, honestly, every day I am so grateful that they saw that I was really struggling and they didn't know what to do. And we didn't have Weight Watchers, we didn't have all the wellness options that we do today. So off I went and I actually did 3 summers in a row and it was a really cool journey for me. It was quite exciting that I was able to learn actually about nutrition, learned I fell in love with movement and exercise. And at the age of like 11 and 12, I developed this passion for wellness. Truly fell in love with the whole idea of like feeling better, feeling good, moving my body at such a young age. Fast forward so many years, it became my hobby. Now, of course, back in the day, I always say that back in the day, we were counting calories, we were moving our body, and it was that same story of move more and eat less. And that was the dialogue. That's what we all kind of grew up with. And I figured out about 30 years ago that really wasn't the case. And I did a deep dive with my own health and wellness and really learned so much about functional health. And I learned about gut health and insulin resistance and thyroid issues and just all the things that were really triggers in my own world. I didn't even realize that there were underlying root causes for for the symptoms I was having. So I did a deep dive into functional health and wellness, started to work with practitioners and doctors, and literally one thing led to another. And I just kept saying to myself, even though I had these other degrees and I'm in many other careers, this kept kind of rising to the surface for me. And it was 15 years ago that a functional medicine doctor said to me, Audrey, you have such a passion for this. You're so wonderful with people. You know what? Do you consider coaching my patients? And I said, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? This has like been a dream come true. And I remember saying to him, but doctor, I didn't go to school for this. And he looked me straight in the eye and said, Audrey, your life has been your schooling. You don't need to go to school for this. This is like you have this in you. So he said, make up business cards, make up some flyers. I'll start sending patients to you. And my business was born. I did end up going back to school because I felt like I wanted to do this for my own knowledge, just my own sense of self. I was like, I need to do some training here and went back to school, with a phenomenal school, the Institute for Psychology of Eating. Reason being that I always saw women struggling, although they knew what to do, but couldn't do it. And I said, Jen, there is psychology here. I need to understand why women can't do the things that they really want to do. There's something that's not connecting properly. So I wanted to really learn about the psychology of food, psychology of eating, and what makes women's minds tick and why they couldn't really stick with the program. And so it was a year program. And basically, 15 years later, here I am. And it's been honestly the most beautiful experience and journey of my life.
I mean, I have a question. What did you get at it? Why doesn't it stick? Because what were some of the things, as I mean, because you have such a long history in terms of your career. I'm sure you've coached so many women. So my question is like, what were some of the things or one of the main challenges or some of the challenges that you see that women like us face all the time when we're trying to manage our weight or manage our body? Because there's so much, I mean, we can go into it, but what were some of the things that you were seeing?
I mean, it varies. I mean, some of the things that come to mind off the top of my head. Women were always told that like certain foods were off limits, right? And so one of my phrases is deprivation is your worst enemy, satisfaction's your best friend. And so what was happening, the more women would deprive themselves, because that's diet culture, like deprive, 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 right? Why do we end up with eating disorders? I mean, I could talk about this for hours, but when you deprive, the brain can't handle that for very long. And then we end up binging. So this is really more of like a mindset, really story around relationship with food. The moment that you say anything is available, all the food in the world is on the table for you, this is more of like a mindful eating approach, right? An intuitive eating approach. You can have whatever you want, Jen, right? All of a sudden, like, are you going to gorge yourself? Probably not. Once your brain says, I can have it, you don't feel deprived. You don't feel like, my God, I need to eat like a crazy person because I'm never going to have this food again. Right. So that is just one example of sort of getting rid of the deprivation mindset and allowing this mindset of I can have what I want, but now I'm actually going to choose foods that actually make me feel really amazing. I'm not choosing them based on their caloric load. I'm not choosing them because they're going to make me fat or make me skinny, but I'm choosing them because they make me feel a certain way. And the truth is, as you begin to really learn your body and learn what works for you end up saying no to certain foods, not because they're fattening or they're going to make you heavy, but it's because they really don't agree with you or make you feel the way you want to feel. So it's a whole different mindset around the food, but really it's that deprivation piece that we need to eliminate. I mean, that's just killing women in general. So that's just one example.
And I agree with you. And I've always said, even to my son, who's 15, I've always been a firm believer that the foods that you eat dictate your mood. So it dictates so much of that. And so, whether it's physically dictating your mood, whether you get very tired or sleepy at a certain amount of time, or you're feeling like, oh, I don't feel good. And, there's a very big difference between eating something that really has value to your body and what you feel like versus something that you're eating that doesn't have value and a couple hours later you're hungry. So I'm a complete believer of the foods that we eat definitely have impact on our mood for sure.
Without a doubt. And another big piece that I uncovered was okay, so women, they can't stick to a certain program. Well, why? You ask why. Oftentimes, there are underlying conditions. One example would be an imbalance of gut flora. I have had this personally myself with major candida overgrowth. When you have, and I talk about the gut bacteria as armies, you have a
Mm.
good army and a bad army. The more you feed the bad army the sugar, the processed foods, the inflammatory foods, that army grows. When that army grows, it's calling all the shots. You might want to eat a certain way, but your gut is saying, heck no, I want the potato chips. I want the chocolate. I want the ice cream. And it's almost like you can't stop, even though your brain is saying, don't eat it. you're going to gain weight or you won't feel well, the gut flora is literally running the show. So we have undiagnosed underlying root conditions that are causing women and men to eat inappropriately or maybe not in their best interest, but it's not, they almost don't have control over it. So that's just one other example of like, I really want to follow this plan, but I'm not able to. And they think it's their fault. They think that they're doing something wrong, that they're broken, when essentially it's something going on inside that's really running the show.
No, that's so, and I think that's why we're here today. I mean, the education part of the how and the why and the what is so important. And I think that's why I thought that this conversation that we would have today was so important for so many women, related, because it's all related and we're going to get to all of that, but specifically on that topic of menopause and what that does to our bodies as we transition. It's always been a topic that has been a taboo topic. It's always kind of been this thing that nobody's really known about. Like I remember my mom going through it, I believe, or actually I don't because she never spoke about it. It was just we knew there was something going on, but we didn't know what it was. And I think that, in 2026, I think there's so much more information that is gaining traction on social media about menopause and how we're educating ourselves first. And I'm even seeing things about educating our children. Like if mom is behaving differently, like why is that? I mean, and I also think men need to know about this, but today we're going to focus on the women. So I think that today it's really for me also because I'm in this place that I need to know all of this as well. It's really a 101 level of what menopause is. So I'm wondering, can we start with like the actual stages of it?
Yes. Yeah.
And when women really start to feel something
Yes.
or
Absolutely. I think this is so
yeah.
important for women to understand. Like, when does perimenopause start and when does menopause start and what is this all even about? So basically, menopause is a hormonal transition, and it is not just one single event. It's basically unfolds over several years. Perimenopause is before you hit menopause. Let me first say that menopause happens from the moment that you have not had a period, a cycle in one full year. So you have to be without a period for one full year. And then that's actually like the birth date. You'd say, wow, I haven't had a period in one year. That's essentially when menopause begins. Now, prior to that, you could have a cycle of literally like 3 to 10 years almost of perimenopause. What does that look like? Typically, that's starting, could be late 30s, sometimes even mid 30s for some individuals. Most of the time, it's at around 40 ish. You might notice more mood swings as you're getting your cycle. You might notice that your period is not coming every 28 or 30 days, but maybe it's like 35 days. And then all of a sudden, you're getting another one in 14 days. And it starts to fluctuate and become a little bit all over the place. It's not as consistent as it used to be. You might notice all of a sudden you're getting a little bit of belly fat that you did not have before. You're noticing that even when you drink alcohol, you're kind of not metabolizing it the same way. You have more of a headache. You're not sleeping as well. And the next day, you do not feel the same. You might think, that's so strange. A couple of years ago, I could have my 3 glasses of wine and be fine. Something is just not feeling right to me now. You might notice a little hair loss. You might notice body aches. You might notice even things like anxiety start to creep in. I've heard women say, Audrey, I can't drive over the GW Bridge anymore. Like I have this anxiety that's come out of nowhere. Also, things like vaginal dryness, a lack of desire, you just don't feel like you so much anymore. I hear a lot of that. Like, I'm just not me. Night sweats, even daytime sweats. There are women that will all of a sudden go, oh my God, I need like a wet washcloth. I am burning up. So these are all the different symptoms that happen during perimenopause. And even once you've hit menopause, menopause lasts for many years. I mean, really, it's not like a defined time, but basically there is post menopause is basically your life after menopause. But you're kind of in menopause for about 10 years or so. So I know I'm making this sound really scary, but I am going to say this to everybody in your audience that not everybody experiences these symptoms. I personally had a few of them, but not all of them, and really managed to get through menopause feeling pretty amazing. I did go on hormonal replacement, which I'm happy to talk about. I have used something for vaginal dryness. I have been taking testosterone for a bunch of years, still on it, along with estrogen and progesterone. I have definitely had to tweak my diet a little bit, although my diet was very solid, which I'm going to talk about the importance of the diet and the exercise because I think that is what saved me because I have been doing this my whole life without even knowing that I was really supporting myself in my 30s and 40s. I really was appropriately. And so when I got into my 50s in that menopausal space, I really didn't have much to deal with. So I'm so happy to be sharing this information now with you and your audience so that you gals can really take this and run and listen so that as you enter these phases, you will be so armed and ready and prepared and you're not going to feel like you're freaking out. So,
Yeah, no, I appreciate that because I think that what I'm starting to understand through just conversations with other women and medical practitioners are that people think that in their 30s they don't have to think about this. This is like, and this is something I didn't think about, or even in my early 30s. I'm 48 years old, and I just feel like the past 2 years, some of the symptoms that you're sharing today with the people that are listening are some of the things that I, in fact, have experienced. And right now, what I'm experiencing mostly is this really significant brain fog where I'm forgetting things, I'm forgetting words. And then that's where the anxiety comes in because I feel like I will be at work and somebody will ask me a question about something I just did maybe yesterday or a week ago. And I sometimes have to respond, I don't remember. And, like, it's so embarrassing, and so but what do I say? "Hey, guys, by the way, I'm in perimenopause and I can't share I'm forgetful." You also you don't wanna have those conversations, but it's truly something that's definitely been difficult for me in terms of my experience.
well, I think a lot of women will say today because it is so topic of conversation. And thankfully, we have some incredible gynecologists and hormonal specialists out there really bringing all this information to social media. So, I mean, like Dr. Mary Claire Haber has been such a pioneer in this. And I think it really is okay to say, excuse me, I kind of have like perimenopause brain for a moment. So just bear with me. All women understand that, and I think almost better to just come right out with it and be like, I got you, like, no problem. It really is so acceptable to speak that way today. Maybe 20 years ago, people would have rolled their eyes, but I think that today it's so lovely to be transparent and honest, if you're comfortable.
No,
So
yeah.
I think
That's
it's,
why we're here. And plus,
yes,
life is definitely unscripted, as I say. And so why not have the conversation? That's exactly what it is. But as I said, when you're going through these experiences for the first time, you don't want to believe it.
I know.
At first you're like, no, it can't be that. And then it keeps happening over time. And then you have nothing else to attribute it to but this
Yes.
experience. So I appreciate that. So ladies, transparency is key.
And
Transparency is
even
key.
and be honest with your family members. I think it's important to even be open and honest with the men in your life and your children and be like, listen, mommy's just having a little bit of a rough patch here. I'm going to be fine, but bear with me. Please have patience with me. And really bringing your husband or partner along for the ride. I think very important for them to understand. There was the M Factor movie. Thankfully, I mean, these two women just Tamsin and Joanne, produced this incredible movie. It was just so eye opening for all of us. And I believe they had a lot of spouses speak up about how they had these conversations together, how important it was for the women to share with their guys or, partner and to just explain what's going on. And for them to be a support system. So I think the more you can involve your family, the better for everybody.
And I really love that because I think that the changes require so many different levels of understanding and support that people really don't realize. So I love that we're sharing this information because it's so important. So I have a couple questions here that my community of women had. They were very excited when I said I was going to be bringing this into our conversation and into one of my episodes. So they like literally took no time and gave me some of these questions. So I want to talk a little bit about why, for somebody as myself that is going through these changes, what is actually happening to us, especially when we start to realize that the old ways of eating suddenly don't work anymore. So, what is happening there? And what are some of the changes that we have to make?
Yeah. So, what's really fascinating is as we are in this perimenopausal space and menopause, we have basically a decline of hormones. So we have a decline of estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, all three. As estrogen, I'm going to kind of talk specifically about the estrogen for a moment. As that starts to decline, our insulin levels rise. It's almost like a seesaw effect. So what happens is the alcohol, the sugar, the carbohydrates that we used to ingest and not have an issue with, all of a sudden we're packing on the pounds. So we develop more of an intolerance to the insulin because of this decline of estrogen. So all of a sudden I hear women say, Coach Audrey, I don't get it. Like I used to always have, I don't know, a bagel with cream cheese on Saturday morning, and I would have maybe pancakes with my kids or whatever it might be, or a couple glasses of wine a week. And I was a solid 130 pounds my whole life. All of a sudden, I'm 140. I've changed nothing. Nothing is different. What is going on? And so it's this change of hormones that is causing a change of, I'm going to just dumb it down, like metabolism in a sense. And so you're not digesting and metabolizing the foods the same. You might have more insulin running through your bloodstream, hence signaling the body to store fat. When the body is searching for more estrogen because of this decline, we also tend to put weight on around the belly, specifically the belly. It's very interesting. There is something in the belly fat hormone, and I can't speak to the science perfectly because I'm not a doctor, but basically, we put fat on around the belly region for the body to kind of absorb more estrogen. So you'll find this like a true belly starts to appear. The other thing that's happening is women, unfortunately, don't understand the importance and the necessity, and I'm going to say this over and over, the necessity of building muscle. I am on every woman that I know, from my daughter who's 22 to my son's girlfriend who's 30. And I'm on them constantly about, ladies, get in the gym and start building muscle. Your muscle is your metabolic specs. It is going to run that engine. It is the only thing that truly gets that metabolism humming. The more muscle we have, the more you're burning all the time. The more muscle we have, it's a larger container for glucose. So across the board, the more muscle you have, the better you will be at staving off that weight gain, overall weight gain, and the belly fat. And I swear, I always say that's what saved me, because I had been lifting iron since I'm 20 years old. And I never stopped. Only once, when I was pregnant with my son, I stopped for a chunk of time, but got right back to it after having him. And I think I've just built this reservoir of muscle, and it's really, really prevented me from kind of just exploding, which I hate to say it that way, but women will even use those words like, I feel like I've just exploded. Like, what's happening?
Agree with you. So I too feel the same way. I've been working out since my early 20s. I believe that weight training is the fountain of youth for women. That is what I
Yep,
say.
it is.
I did it the same way. I had a C-section. I was 36 years old. I spent 8 weeks off of Well, actually, I went back 8 weeks after I had him, and then I slowly went back into it. After a family tragedy that I had in 2021, I tried, I just couldn't do it, of course, for all the obvious reasons. Then finally, about maybe a couple of months, I did the yoga, I did all the other things, I just didn't do the weight training. And then after a while, I went back to the trainer that I had for 6 years. I went back, and I will tell you, when you say that reservoir, it is truly, in fact, the truth. Muscle has memory. I mean, because I have been working out since my early 20s, I think that it was a lot easier than expected to get back into shape. I mean, it's been maybe 2.5 months, and I'm starting to see such a change in my body and in my mood. So I can't
It
agree with you more.
it
Not
is
even
like
just in terms of
I say to all the ladies, if you're gonna
that.
do one thing, just one thing, get into the gym and start lifting the weights. Like it is a total game changer. It really, really is. Well, that's back to kind of your question, but like we see these changes with like the abdominal fat. We're losing from the age of 30, where you're losing at minimum of 1 pound of muscle per year, unless you are working really hard to hold on to it and to build, right? So, all of these changes in our body, we can absolutely counteract and combat with the proper diet, with the proper movement, and the proper supplementation. So, and when it comes to supplementation, there are a variety of options there. And we can talk about, whether it's HRT, whether there's a lot of natural, more homeopathic things that you can start with in the beginning, and I think it's just really having this open conversation with your doctor to discuss all the different options, and kind of it's like one step at a time. I think that it's really very symptom driven. How I remember my gynecologist saying to me, no one should ever suffer. No one should ever suffer. We have so many things to offer. And it's just being super aware of what you're experiencing and having this open conversation with your physician to really figure out what's the best route for you.
So for those of you just to hear, I mean, really what it is it's what we are putting into our bodies, how we are moving our bodies, and also if there are things that we need in addition to that, there are tons of options, but really start there from the beginning. It's the movement and really what we're putting into our bodies and being more intentional with
Yes.
those things, which are
Because like what you were maybe doing in your later 20s or early 30s in terms of your diet, because of these shifts of hormones, the body needs something different. We just can't keep doing what we used to do. The body is not going to respond the same way. That's really it in a nutshell.
Yeah, so it's not it, ladies in our 40s. It is not it anymore. So please listen. We don't want to feel like we are feeling once we're experiencing it and we're like, why did this happen? So
Right.
I want to go a little bit into something that we were talking about, HRT and some of the other things a little bit more deeply, because I don't really think, again, the community of women that I'm speaking to feel that this is like a really big topic on as far as how to treat symptoms and just kind of what you're saying, that supplemental piece to symptom management. So, what are your thoughts on hormone replacement and how should someone consider those things? What are some of the pros and cons that maybe you've experienced or what people should ask their doctors about?
Absolutely. So I think that it's hormone replacement therapy, and we kind of call it HRT, is really most effective for the treatment of hot flashes, night sweats, improving sleep, the body aches and pains, and protecting bone density and vaginal health and dryness. I would say that those are the top things. People sometimes think that once they start hormonal replacement therapy, that they're going to lose 20 pounds overnight. The hormonal replacement therapy really helps more the things I just listed. It will absolutely contribute to your success with weight loss. It's just one piece of the puzzle. But I would say off the top, I've got clients that start progesterone and estrogen, and within 2 days, they're texting me, I'm sleeping like a baby. So there are certain things that are absolutely remedied pretty immediately. And that would be the night sweats, the hot flashes, the sleeping at night, and protecting bone density and the vaginal dryness. So those off the top are things that directly help those symptoms. And they help pretty quickly. I mean, you'll see within a couple of weeks, people will say they feel like a completely different human being.
So you don't have all of those symptoms. Those are just some of the symptoms. Okay. Right now, I'm like, I should probably consider this because I experience night sweats and I also experience waking up. I mean, I don't think that there are days that I don't wake up at maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, praying to the sleep gods that I can get back to sleep, or that
Yes.
it's like only 1 or 2 o'clock and I still have some rest, some hours.
Yes. Progesterone is truly a miracle when it comes to the sleep piece. There's no question. I mean, some people will say, yes, it's helping, but I still need a piece of a gummy or I need some CBD or there are so many other sleep remedies out there that might be a little bit more natural that you can sort of combine and pair with the progesterone. But I know when I don't take my progesterone, I do not sleep as deep at all. I notice a very, very big difference. I never experienced like the body aches, but a lot of people do experience that. They find that that also helps with body aches and kind of muscle aches and pains. I'd say the estrogen, progesterone, also, I look at it as like preventative. My personal gynecologist has said, back in the day, there was that whole faulty study about how it causes cancer that has been totally debunked. And that whole label has been taken off of the medication. We now know that it does not cause cancer. The one thing I'd say is my doctor stresses greatly the benefits of HRT in preventing heart disease in your 60s and 70s. So she is all for it. Many of the gynecologists are all for taking HRT to prevent that, God forbid, heart disease later in life. So it's almost something that I find most doctors are encouraging their patients to actually get on, especially if they have some of these symptoms. If you have no symptoms at all, I don't think they're going to be recommending it. But if you do have some, it's definitely something to consider for sure.
Okay. So let's talk about the other testosterone a little bit because I know that, listen, I have to talk about this as it relates to sex drive because there's so many women that I speak to that tell me about their libido and their sex drive completely diminishing. Now, these are women that have super high sex drives, very healthy sex life with their partners, their husbands, which to me is obviously a very important thing for some people in their relationships, if not all. And some people say that this is like God sent, that this minute that they start the testosterone, they're like a
It-
16-year-old boy.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I'm laughing about it, but I want to
Yes.
know, can you tell me a little bit about
Yeah.
that and maybe why that is or why women, oftentimes feel like they have to go that route? Or
Yeah.
can they do something different that's more homeopathic?
So honestly, it's like with the estrogen and progesterone, we as ladies have testosterone in our systems as well, but do start to diminish as we age, just like with the estrogen and progesterone. So with the testosterone, it's really very interesting. And I speak to ladies all day long about these things. For some women, it does work wonders, like you're sharing. For others, like, they feel a little bit better. I would say they feel like they have a little more motivation. They feel like they have more confidence. They're noticing that they're not losing as much muscle. Like their work in the gym is like definitely showing. But in terms of libido, like that still feels a little dead to them. Like that isn't necessarily helping. I think it also depends on age. Maybe it works a little bit better when you are in your late 40s into 50s. Maybe as you are getting closer to 60, it doesn't quite work the same. I think it's so individual, Jen, and from person to person, everybody experiences something unique. I do believe in taking all of them. I personally have been on all three for a number of years and I'm postmenopausal. I'll be turning 60 in a couple of weeks, and my doctor still wants me on everything. She said my blood work is perfect. She likes where I'm at, my levels, and I feel really good. So there's no reason for me to go off. I think that once again, when it comes to the libido and the dryness and all those things, it is just so individual. And it's hard to say, like, oh, yes, testosterone is going to be like your magic thing. You're going to be back to how you were when you met your husband at 21 years old. It's just that may not be the case, but it might help a little bit. And even a little bit is something when you get to this phase of life. Like, we'll take any little bit of support. It definitely helps with muscle. It helps with energy, that whole kind of confidence, that whole like think about testosterone in men and having that little bit of like bravado. Like, I think it does give you that little bit of a boost in your system. No question. I'm all for it. I think it's terrific. Once again, have your levels checked, have the conversation with your doctor. I don't know of anything homeopathic that does what testosterone does. I've not had the experience with anything homeopathic when it comes to testosterone. Yes, with estrogen and progesterone, I did play around. There are a number of like more natural things that you could try in the beginning. In terms of the testosterone, I'm not familiar with that. I think it's just testosterone. Like that's the thing. Yeah.
Very simple. There it
Yeah,
is.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. No, I appreciate that because I think as you said, there's the point of this is to really giving women all types of understandings of how they can manage these symptoms and really go through this experience where they don't have to feel like they are out of control and that their bodies are no longer theirs.
The one thing I just want to say, because this was so interesting. I bumped into a friend a few weeks ago who I think is a little bit older than I am, maybe a year or two. And she has put on a significant amount of weight over the past number of years. And she's gone up and down and up and down. And she said to me, Audrey, for the very first time, I'm starting to take HRT. And she's like never spoken to her doctor about it, like in all these years. And I felt so sad that here she is at 61 or 62 and is just like starting this process. And I thought, like, where have you been? Where has your doctor been for the last 15 years? Like you didn't have to get to this point.
Yeah.
The message is this, ladies. As you start to notice change, don't ignore it. Please have the conversation. Talk to your doctor, talk to your friends. Just reach out to somebody. Reach out to me on Instagram. I will literally answer you and help you. People think, and she even admitted, like, I just kept trying different diets. I kept trying different supplements. And it was where were you? And a very, very smart woman. So I don't know, is it shame on her doctor that she never brought up this conversation? Was it that she was embarrassed to ask? I don't know. But I just remember feeling like literally the words in my mind were, where have you been? Why didn't you not have this conversation sooner? You really don't have to be in this place now. So don't ignore. Things never go away, ladies, okay? They only get worse. That is with everything. I hear this all day long. Constipation, losing my hair, can't lose weight, thyroid things. There's always an underlying reason to a symptom that you are experiencing, and that this wishful thinking that it's just going to go away if you ignore it, guess what? It's not going away. And God forbid it gets worse, it exacerbates, it affects other parts of your body, and then you're really dealing with issues. So, and I'm not saying be a hypochondriac and run to the doctor at every little bump and bruise, but if something's persistent, and we all know in our hearts that you shouldn't be constipated for 3 or 4 days in a row. Like, you should be going to the bathroom every single day. And if you're not, you need to figure out why, right? That's just one thing that comes to mind because I hear this a lot. Or you've been struggling with your weight for your whole life and can't seem to figure out what the problem is, right? So there are so many things I hear. And I just wish that people were a little bit more proactive and didn't just wait for these things to go away on their own because
And I completely agree. And so I just want, but before we start to kind of, as you know, we could talk about this all day long. And I mean, you're so knowledgeable. And before we start to kind of move into the end of our conversation, I really also wanted to speak a little bit about the psychological aspects of it, because I think it's so important. I mean, obviously, I'm a full believer that the mind and body are connected. When we're not physically feeling well, it affects us mentally and emotionally. And when we're not emotionally well, it affects us physically. So a little bit about mental clarity. And so a lot of the women in my group were mentioning brain fog. They were mentioning that their moods were really not what they used to be. They're a lot more impatient and they can't explain it. And sometimes they surprise themselves with some of the reactions or the responses that they're having with people that they talk to every day. Can you talk a little bit about that and maybe how nutrition and lifestyle can really calm combat that symptom or those symptoms?
Yeah, and the mood swings, the anxiety, the depression, the brain fog, these are all real. You are not imagining these. These are biological, they are treatable, and they are really happening to you. So, how can we help? How can we support? Well, number one, really, the gut controls so much. We create 75% of our serotonin, our happy hormone, in our gut. And there is this very, very strong connection, which we call the gut brain axis. So if you're eating poorly, if you're having a lot of sugar, if you're drinking a lot, which by the way, women often go to alcohol because that's like the numbing tool, right? It's the thing to calm us down when in essence it does the reverse, right? So we want to think about having a clean diet to the best of our ability. We want to focus on protein. We want to focus on fiber. We want to focus on real food and as much really steering clear of the processed foods as much as you can. I mean, the reality is, are you going to have dessert here and there? Yes. Are you going to have a cocktail here and there? Probably so. 90% of your diet, if that can be super clean, focusing mainly on protein at every single meal. And I'm going to just throw out some numbers, but like you really want to shoot for like at least a good 30 grams of protein, even 40 grams of protein is okay. 3 times a day. That's a wonderful place to start. Getting 25 to 30 grams of fiber. That means a lot of vegetables. That means a lot of just roughage, high quality carbohydrates, not things out of boxes and bags, right? So the diet is critical. It really is going to help support that gut flora and really keep your mood stable because those highly processed foods, the sugars, they're so inflammatory in the body. And inflammation is basically the root of all diseased states of the body. So the less sugar, the less alcohol, the less processed foods, and I'm keeping this so simple, the better. Okay. And the movement. When we exercise, it just creates dopamine in the brain. Movement makes us feel amazing. Movement also helps to kind of use that glucose that's running through your system to help to balance the insulin. And I can't stress this weight training enough. Ladies, if you are cardio bunnies and you're just spending time on your Peloton or just walking or just taking a cycle class, please revisit this. You've got to be weight training 3 to 4 times a week. You really, really need to be lifting and you want to lift heavy. You are not going to be bulky. I promise you, you are not going to look like a man. I am the smallest, leanest I've ever been, and I lift heavy weights.
And by the way, you can check her Instagram out and see the body. It is like super fit and all the things. So you could check, she's not lying. And if you guys need a trainer, you can talk to me because I've got such a team of people that love it. But you know what? You're saying all these things, and that is a hard thing to change. And I just want to also validate that because we've got all this information, and now we're saying, hey, look, we've got to change things up, which is in fact the only way to be able to really manage those symptoms. And so I don't want to sugarcoat that for anyone, that
No.
those are the ways to manage those symptoms to really go into that shift or that transition in your life, probably the best way where we can feel as unscathed as possible. But I want to say this, it is a human life transition. And before we wrap up, we're talking about living a better life. And I know that comes with so many things. A lot of women just have a lot of fun on Friday nights and they want to have a cocktail. And I'm going to end with this question because it is a big question. We all like to have a cocktail or two. And, how can we still enjoy a drink with our friends without the hormone hangover? Like, what do we do? And I want to be honest because I know women are like, hell no, I am
Yeah.
not going to give up my martini.
Yeah.
But are there any beginner rules to really make
Yeah.
alcohol work for our new biology?
Well, I would have prefaced by saying that I think as you begin to age even more, Jen, because I'm significantly older than you, and I hear this from my clients, that it's just not worth like they might start by saying, I'm not giving up my tequila. I'm not giving up my martini. Like, forget it. I'm like, you don't
Right.
have to.
I know that. And you said that to me. Ladies, we were at an event over Christmas and you and Audrey said that to me. This is not going to work. Like she's very transparent with me and I love that. She preaches it offline as well.
Yeah, so I'm like, let's fine. You can have it. But then over time, they will come back to me and say, you're right. Because I'm really not feeling good. And it's not even worth it to me because I'm ruined the next day and I'm hungry and I'm this and I'm that. Like, is I thought I enjoyed the alcohol so much more than I actually really do. So keep an open mind. Right now at 48, you might be able to figure it out, but maybe in 10 years, you're not going to feel the same way. And just like enjoy the process and just notice. Notice how your body is starting to change. And you might just say one day, you know what, Aud, you're right. It's just not that important to me anymore because I just don't feel well. Now, let's circle back. You want to have your cocktail, it's fine. I'd say try to stick with the cleaner, clearer liquors like the vodka and the tequila are honestly the best. You nurse them. You can keep adding ice. You can keep adding lime. You can have one and sort of sip. Whereas the wine, it's going down a heck of a lot quicker, much easier, and much higher in sugar. I find that my ladies who switch to hard liquor have a much easier time versus the wine. So that's just something to consider. The other thing I have found to be really helpful, believe it or not, is making a cocktail using our protein sparkling seltzer. Because you're adding protein to the liquor, it's stabilizing your blood sugar and you don't have the same blood sugar spike or response. So that has been incredibly helpful. And I will have to admit, I'm a big fan. I don't drink gin. I really don't. It's just and really because I don't like it. And that's the honest truth. Like I don't have a hard time saying no because it's just not my thing. Put a big piece of chocolate cake in front of me, and that's a different story. So I'd rather eat my calories. However, I am a fan of like an Aperol spritz or a Hugo spritz. Like that's my thing. And around the holidays, we were entertaining a lot and I just wanted to be festive and have it, but I water it down a ton. I decided to use my sparkling seltzer with it. So I did the protein seltzer. I did regular seltzer with a splash of the Aperol, a splash of the Prosecco. I typically get a bad headache because my body's not used to it. But when I use that protein seltzer in there, I was golden. I felt amazing and I didn't feel sick the next day. So I will say if you compare a protein like this magical drink that we have, that's a really big tip. And I think it helps a lot. So the other thing, if you're out, just try to keep alternating. I mean, like keep it to 2 drinks at the most. And I mean, listen, I always share with my people the most amazing podcast with Andrew Huberman. If you haven't listened, it's all on alcohol. It's long, it's lengthy, it's full of science, but probably one of the best podcasts that I've ever listened to. And I've sent it to hundreds of people. And after listening, they all basically report back that they're looking at alcohol through a whole different lens. And unfortunately, there's just nothing positive that comes of it. It's poison for the body, it's poison for the brain. You want to steer clear of Alzheimer's. You want to steer clear of so many diseases in the body. Alcohol is not going to help you. So I
So
recommend it highly.
no, we're here about truth, And so I think that for those of you that are listening and hearing all of the resources and the little hacks, the menopause hacks that Audrey is sharing, we're also going to share all of those resources on my show notes and on our Instagram. So do not worry about having to take notes because you will get all that information. So as we transition, I mean, this is an amazing, I mean, listen, I mean,
I
we
could
could talk
talk
forever.
for like another hour.
We could talk forever, but this is a time where it's my most fun on the podcast. And it's when I like to ask my guests 5 rapid fire questions. And it's all related to what we're speaking about. So I will give you 5 questions and you can answer them the best way you can, the first thing that pops in your head. And again, all related to what we've been talking about. So are we
All
ready?
right. I'm
Okay.
ready.
Question number 1. What's the biggest mistake women make when they first hit perimenopause?
They don't change their diet.
Okay. They don't change their diet. Love it. Okay. Number 2, one pantry staple every woman in their 40s and 50s needs for their health.
My God. The thing that came to my mind is beef jerky.
I mean, I was not seeing that one coming. Can you just give me a little of the wow?
I'm thinking of my pantry and I'm thinking of grabbing quick and easy. I'm thinking of like women who are constantly in the car and on the run and they need more protein. And I have this beef jerky that I love. It's from a company called People's Choice and they're like little like beef potato chips. And isn't that the funniest thing? And like that's what I'm seeing in my pantry.
I've never had that before, and because of you, I will try it.
I
I will
love
try it.
them. I love
Okay,
them.
I
Yep.
love that. Okay. Tequila soda or a glass of rosé, which is kinder to your hormones? I know you've probably already shared that, but you could
Which
share
is
it.
kinder to your hormones? Definitely the tequila will be kinder to your hormones.
Okay.
Definitely. Yes.
Uh, what's the best way to quit a stress eating moment in under 60 seconds?
Wow. Okay. Gosh, I have so many ideas. I'm going to say just get outside and go for a walk. I mean, that's the first thing that comes to my mind if you can. But honestly, if you're in a stress eating moment, I mean, just like throw it down, get out of the kitchen, get out of where you are, and literally take 5 deep breaths. Like, that is what comes to my mind. I mean, there's so many things, but when you're in that moment, like, you just have to I wanna say, like, run away. You've got to run away, and I have done this before. I literally have thrown things down and run upstairs. I mean, I have a million ideas, but, like, when you're in that space and you wanna stop, it's almost like you just have to drop it because your brain is going, "Stop, stop, stop." Drop it and run. Drop and run.
Seriously. And I also think that, maybe also understanding like your environment and what you're going through. You're in a stressful moment, learning how to tease that out. Like, this is stress. This is not me hungry. Sometimes that dialogue and run
Yes.
and
Yeah.
move,
I
all of
mean,
them.
I could spend an hour talking to you about stress and emotional eating, and I think that would be a great episode because this is all I do. This is all I talk about all day long is stressful and emotional eating. So I know that was kind of a funny answer, but I'm just thinking about when you're in that space, like you don't really want to stop, even though your brain is saying stop. So I'm thinking a very quick, rapid movement to get you out of that space as fast as possible.
Okay. You heard it. You heard it from Audrey. And the last question, question number 5. In one sentence, is menopause a decline or a new beginning?
A new beginning, a beautiful new beginning. It's amazing. I feel like women in menopause, it's like we've entered our queendom. We are like, we're queens. We know it all. We've been through it all. We've got the knowledge. We have the wisdom. We have the elegance, the grace, like everything. And if you can just feel good in your body, I think what you can project to the world is absolute just beauty from head to toe. I really believe that. And I think it's just an incredible chapter. And I'm sure if you're not feeling really well, you don't feel like that. But my goodness, you can absolutely turn that around. You can pivot. You can work with professionals to figure out what it is that you need. And when I tell you turn your world around in such a beautiful way, it is an incredible chapter with so much confidence and so much empowerment and so much beauty.
Oh my gosh, I love how we're ending there. And I just want to say, Audrey, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about what seems to be such complicated stuff. You make it so simple to understand. And it feels like, you know what, as you said, it is the new chapter. And creating this transitionary period is not chaotic and also giving us that roadmap because every girl needs a roadmap to this transition. So we don't have to look at it as chaotic when we've got the tools. So I really, really appreciate you coming on. And I would love to have you on again just to talk about there's so much to talk about.
Oh,
Yeah,
tons,
uh,
so many things. Yes.
so many
I love
things. But why don't you tell our listeners where to find you? And is there anything new that you're doing or exciting with our listeners?
Yes, guys, please give me a follow on Instagram. My last name is Zona, so my company is Zo Healthy. Obviously, a take on So Healthy. So it is Zo_healthy. So you can follow me on Instagram. You can follow me on TikTok. I'm also on Facebook, and feel free to check out my website, which is livezohealthy.com. So I'm available everywhere. I answer every single DM myself. So honestly, I have conversations with people constantly. I'd love to connect with you. I have a private coaching practice. I work virtually. I work with people all over the world, and I often run weight loss programs. I'm actually running a program right now, a 4-week program that will basically end in a couple of weeks, but I'll be doing another one in the spring. So you can always get on my newsletter list through my website, and then you'll get a newsletter once a week, kind of giving you recipes and ideas and thoughts and all the different programs I have running. And I'd love to connect with you. So please message me. I'd love it.
So thank you so much for coming on. And for those of you that are listening, you will get all that information also through my platforms where you will be listening to this podcast. We are on Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. And you will hear all about her on my show notes. So until then, guys, have a great, healthy week, and we will see you soon. Bye.